everyone, my name is Shauna, in case you don't know, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about some book series that I need to finish. This is obviously not all of the series I need to finish, just a select few that I talked about here. If I talked about every single series that I started but still plan on finishing, this video would be way too long. So I've limited it to just a few. I'm going to talk about these. There's a couple on here that I might not finish the whole entire series, and I'll explain why, but hopefully you'll find this video enjoyable, and let's crack on into this. So first things first, I made it a goal to myself to finish the Twilight series this year. I'm in the middle of Midnight Sun. By the time this video is uploaded, I will be done with Midnight Sun. However, after I finish Midnight Sun, there's still 2 books in the series that I am going to finish reading, and it's because they're currently listed like as part of the series on Goodreads. So I'm counting it for like the goal that I set myself to finish the Twilight series, even though technically these 2 books aren't really like 100% connected to the series. Like some people probably would consider them like not connected to the series, so I'll explain what that means in one sec. So I need to finish this one, Life and Death Twilight Reimagined. So this one isn't like focused on Bella and Edward, it's just like a gender swap version. So it's not technically like part of the series, but it also is because it is the same story just with different characters. I've never read a gender swapped like retelling of a story, and I've never read a retelling of a story until Midnight Sun of an author like retelling her own story. And so I'm finding this one to be very interesting because she has Twilight and then she has 2 books that are retellings of the first book that she wrote. So I find that to be really interesting. I'm not really like a huge fan of Midnight Sun, but I'm hoping that I will like Life and Death more than I liked Midnight Sun. I've heard a few people say that Life and Death is better than the actual like Twilight series. And then after this, there's also like the Twilight Illustrated Guide. I'm not going to go for the first edition because as I was looking up the Twilight Illustrated Guide, I found out that the first edition is like ridiculously expensive. So I'll just read the current edition that is in print right now, and I think that the illustrated edition will just be like giving additional information about the Twilight series or just like summarizing things in the Twilight series. I don't know. I don't really know what to expect because guides can sometimes just be like filler just to give the author more money. However, they can sometimes provide more information, so I'm really interested in that one and see what that one's gonna be like. So the first series I want to finish is Twilight. This next one is the first of 2 series on this list that are ones that I may not finish the entire series, and I'll tell you why. So this one is Scarlet by Marissa Meyer. This is the 2nd book in the Lunar Chronicles. However, I might not finish this series. I read Cinder like a really long time ago. I don't remember really anything that Cinder was about. Like I faintly remember this Cinderella really telling, faintly remember that she's a cyborg, I faintly remember that there's a plague, but like I remember not being a huge fan of it. And so if I am not a huge fan of Scarlet, so if I give it like 3 stars or less, I'm just gonna quit the series because this series is fairly long. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like it's 6 books long, and I just don't want to like spend so much time devoted to finishing the series if I'm not the hugest fan of Scarlet. I think that this one is a Red Riding Hood retelling. I really hope that this one surprises me and is better than Cinder, but if it's not, I'm just gonna quit the series. And I will feel guilty about that, I really will. However, there's just so many books I want to read, and I'm not gonna like devote a ton of time to finishing series that are like mediocre. The next series that I want to finish is one that I've been meaning to finish since I was in elementary school. I'm in college, like that's a major problem. So there was this book that was really popular, and it was City of Ember, and I read the first book and I really enjoyed it. Like I was obsessing over it for such a long time. I bought the rest of the series and I just never finished the rest of the series. So since I have the rest of the series, I need to finish it because I want to read every book that I own. So of course I want to finish the City of Ember series. Oh sorry, the series is called Book of Ember. So the next book in the series is The People of Spark, and then the next book is The Prophet of Yonwood, and the final book, at least I think it's the final book, is The Diamond of Darkhold. If there's a 5th book, I'm not gonna read it, but I think that this is the final book. In case you don't know what City of Ember is about, it's like about this dystopian society that like they went underground to survive. I forget why they went underground. I really need to refresh myself on City of Ember. I think I might watch the movie to refresh myself so that I can like be prepared to finish the series. So they're like living underground, and like that's the first book. I would tell you like where the first book left off, but that would be like a major spoiler, but this is like a fun dystopian series. This is one of the first dystopian series that I ever read. I thought the first book was a great like start to the series. However, like a lot of dystopian series, they sort of go downhill after the first book, so I'm hoping that this one won't be like that, but it could be. These are like fairly short too, pretty big font, and pretty thin, so hopefully I'll be able to get around to reading these ones at some point in the future. Next up, I want to finish the Heartstopper series. I keep telling myself that I'm going to finish these soon, and then I just never get around to it. So this is volume 3 and volume 4. I've read volume 1 and volume 2, and volume 5 will be coming out at some point in the nearest future if it isn't out already. This is just such a cute, wholesome gay romance, and it's being made into a TV series soon. Like, the trailer just came out for it. It looks so cute. So I really need to finish this series so that I can be prepared for the show and have fun watching it. If you haven't read Heartstopper yet, I highly recommend it to everyone. It is just adorable and it's so perfect, so easy to understand. I highly recommend Heartstopper to everyone, and I don't really know anyone who hasn't liked Heartstopper before. You know, it seems like everyone likes it. So if you haven't read it yet, go read it. Next up, I want to read Akata Warrior, which is the sequel to Akata Witch. There's also Akata Woman, which is the 3rd book, and I believe the final book, however, I'm not 100% sure. I really want to finish this series. I freaking love the first book. It takes place in Africa, and it's like this magical world with these 4 kids like discovering their like magical powers, learning about it, and preparing to fight this evil. It's such a fun series. I highly recommend it. I had to read the first book for a class for school, and even though I didn't really like the class as a whole because it was a little stressful, I was so glad that I found a new favorite book in that class, and I really hope that the rest of the series continues with the amazing stuff that was in the first book. Next up, I want to finish the Sky series. This is the 2nd book, Thunderhead. It's by Neil Shusterman. I do have the 3rd book as well, however I just didn't grab it from my shelf before I started filming this video. This is such a fun dystopian series. Well, fun, but like also depressing, but like also really good, but like really sad. Like, I have very mixed emotions about it. So this series is a world in which basically death is like non-existent, and so in order to like do population control, there are these people selected to be scythes, and these scythes go ahead and they have to select people to glean, to kill. So it's a very interesting story. There's like a rebellion that brews. Of course, most dystopian series have rebellions. It's just so phenomenal, and I highly recommend Scythe if you haven't read it already, but do know that it is very dark because obviously there's a lot of death and dealing with the morality of choosing who to kill, dealing with the morality of like whether you should even be killing people. Like, it's good. It's really emotional at times, really intense at times, but like phenomenal, and you're unable to put it down because it's that good. And then this is the 2nd series that I may not finish the whole entire series because I wasn't a super huge fan of the first book. However, if the 2nd book is good, then I will probably finish the series. So this one is The Princess and the Fangirl. This is part of the Once Upon a Con series by Ashley Poston. So I read the first book and I like wasn't a super huge fan of it, which I was surprised because it was like a Cinderella retelling set at like a Comic-Con for a large portion of it. There was like cosplay involved, and like I freaking love cosplay. I love going to Comic-Con, so I was expecting to like love the first book in the series. However, I just didn't. Like, it felt very mediocre. So I picked up Princess and the Fangirl because I wanted to give this a chance. Everyone was telling me to give the rest of the series a chance, so I'm going to give this one a chance. However, if this one is just mediocre, then I'm not going to finish the series. And I also want to show you that I picked this up at a Comic-Con, and while the author wasn't at the Comic-Con, there was a booth that sold me a signed copy of her book, and this just says, "Look to the stars, aim, ignite," and it has her signature on it. So that's really fun, and this book was actually like cheap. I thought it would be more expensive since it was a signed edition. However, it was cheap, so I got it. I'm not really sure which one this is a retelling of. Let me see if it says on the back. It doesn't say which one this is a retelling of on the back, but it does sound possibly better than the first, but I'm not sure. I'll have to read it to figure it out. And the final series that I want to finish, that I want to talk about in today's video, is His Dark Elements. The first book in the series is A Golden Compass. I read that one and I really enjoyed it, and so I immediately went out and bought the next 2 books in the series. I haven't gotten around to reading these ones yet. Also, if The Golden Compass doesn't sound familiar to you, it's because there's other editions of the book where it's called Northern Lights, and I think if you're in the UK or some other countries that aren't the US, you might just know it as Northern Lights. However, I know it as The Golden Compass because I live in America and I had a newish edition of the book. I really hope I remember enough of The Golden Compass to understand these books thoroughly. I'm also confused why this one seems so small. This is the 2nd book. This series is like this fun fantasy series, and in this fantasy series there's like these kids who have familiars, which are like animals that they're like connected to like really strongly, and they sort of have to like have these animals to like survive and function with them. It's a fun series, and I really hope that these next 2 books are just as good as the first one, if not a little better, because the first one was good but there was like a little bit of room for improvement, so maybe these will like take that room for improvement and just be like even more awesome, but if not, I'm sure I'll still really enjoy these ones. So those were just some of the many series that I hope to finish. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to me if you haven't already. All of my other social media will be linked down in the description below. I highly recommend going and checking out my other social media if you haven't already. I upload videos twice a week, so my next video will be uploaded this Friday. I hope to see all of you there for that video, and until next time, goodbye!